we stand together united, believing that in this Congress, in this moment, we will once and for all deny all federal funding to Planned Parenthood of America.
Jean Schmidt is the chairwoman of the House Pro-Life Caucus. After we hear from our ladies, we'll hear from two other leader ladies, Kristen and Hanks, and then we'll go on.
Thank you. And first off, elections have consequences, and thank you for the power that is behind me. I really appreciate it. I support everything that Mike Pence is doing to stop the federal funding of abortion, whether it's directly or indirectly, whether it's in the United States or whether it's abroad. You know, we are in an era right now where we have to look at every dollar that we spend, every tax dollar, and say, is this the right way to spend your money? Is this the honest way to spend your money? And is it in keeping with the Constitution? And I think that when you look at giving money to Planned Parenthood, you have to question whether it is the right way, the honest way, and the constitutional way. You know, I have notes here, but I really just want to point out two things. The Goodmiker Institute, which is Planned Parenthood's own research center, says that if you give more money to abortions, federal money to abortions, you can have more abortions. Well, I did take logic, and I think that that is the inverse. Then if you don't give money, you don't have what? Abortions. It only makes sense. But when I looked at the videos, I said, well, you know, that really does happen, because it's really happening in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Just a few years ago, two separate cases, that one is in court now, one already went to court, were young girls. A 14-year-old girl was being raped by her father, and she went to the abortion clinic, Planned Parenthood, and she told him, and they ignored it. Well, he's in jail for his actions. And the prosecutor decided not to extend the case beyond that. But there's a second case that's going to trial right now. It involves another young woman. Her coach took her to the Planned Parenthood clinic and said he was the guardian, paid for the abortion. She went home and never told her parents. But it seems that she had to go back to the doctor. And upon examination, the doctor said, well, when did you have this abortion? And her parents said, what abortion? And it's being decided in the courts as we speak. But in both cases, they were underage girls. In both cases, they were, I believe, 14. Ladies and gentlemen, that's statutory rape. That should have been a giant red flag in front of that abortion clinic. And they knew these girls were underage. And yet they looked the other way. It needs to stop. And you and I don't need to spend our precious dollars allowing this to continue. So I look forward to this Congress and a pro-life act legislation that will protect all life, because you know the Constitution, the preamble says we have the right to life. And that's the right to life of the unborn, the born, and the elderly. I want to thank Marjorie for what she is doing, for you courageous ladies for what you are doing, and I'm going to turn this back to Marjorie. Thank you very much.
Recognize Congresswoman from the state where sex trafficking has just been revealed through these videos, and that's Anne-Marie Burkle, number 25.
Good morning. It is an honor to stand here with my colleagues and to be in support of this legislation that will defund Planned Parenthood. This is an opportunity for all of us to take a look at the monies that Planned Parenthood is getting. In an environment where we're asking legitimate agencies to take a cut because we can no longer afford it. We are now going to cut an agency that exploits women, both born and unborn. This is an opportunity for us to stand up for what's right and to stand up for all women, born and unborn. Thank you very much.
Vicky Hartzler from Missouri, another freshman.
Thank you. You know, there's a lot of aspects we could look at with this piece of legislation, but I want to focus on the the girls themselves. I used to be a teacher for 11 years, and I worked with teenagers. I love them, and there are every young woman that I had the privilege of teaching and working with and coaching has value. and has potential and is worthy to be respected and loved. And they deserve better than to be preyed on by older men, be exploited by pimps, or be profiteered from an abortion industry. And here we have an instance where our tax dollars are going to an industry, and these young women are going there and having trouble in their lives. And instead of being loved and being given help and assistance, they're being used and misused. And they're not standing up for them when they're being sexually abused or they're being in the human trafficking. And it is ridiculous that our tax dollars are going to subsidize this industry. It's time to pull the plug. It's time to give value to the girls that they deserve. And I'm happy to support this bill. Thank you.
Congresswoman Virginia Fox from the great state of North Carolina.
Thanks, Marjorie. I support, again, this legislation very, very strongly. I want to say amen to the things that have already been said, particularly as we talk about the need to make these budget cuts that we have committed to make. The American people want us to cut spending, and there's no better place to cut than to the money going to Planned Parenthood. But I want to bring up an issue that some people on the other side, particularly over in the Senate, have said that our agenda on women's health is extreme. I don't believe that's what the American people think. Taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood is extreme. Their agenda on the rights of unborn babies is extreme. That's why we're not going to back down from stopping taxpayer funding for an organization that's directly responsible for the abortion of hundreds of thousands of unborn babies each year. If you're going to kill the unborn, you're not going to get taxpayer funding, period. That's what the American people want, and that's why we're standing up so strongly. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for the unborn babies. It's what the American people want. Thank you.
About North Carolina, we have another one, Renee Elmers, freshman from North Carolina.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. This is wonderful. My comments are going to be very similar. I am just so honored to be part of this legislation and moving it forward. Its time has come. We're well beyond that point, as a matter of fact. And now we can make this an issue. And it's unfortunate that we've seen this. We've seen these videos, and as a nurse, my first thought was the safety and health of those young girls that are being subjected to this. Regardless of where you stand on the abortion issue, why are taxpayer funding going when there are so many of us who are pro-life, who want to protect life from preconception to natural death? And here is where the buck stops. So we are ready and willing. It's time again, and I'm just grateful and happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Congresswoman Martha Roby from Alabama.
Thank you. I'm standing here today with my colleagues as a call to action. I want to thank each of you for your leadership, for your courage, for your willingness to stand up. It is beyond shocking that Planned Parenthood employees were found and videoed aiding and abetting in the sex trafficking of minors. It is not a proud day that citizens learn about these activities, that they're taking place through Planned Parenthood. It's an even worse day when we're told that our government has funded Planned Parenthood with more than $363 million in government grants and contracts. These videos are demeaning to women, and they are a black eye on our society. Funding must be stopped, and Planned Parenthood must not be granted any more taxpayer dollars. I thank members of Susan B. Anthony and Live Action for allowing me to come today and express the immediate need to defund Planned Parenthood.
Nance, the CEO of Concerned Women for America, and Kristen Hawkins, Students for Life, come up, and then we'll go to Congressman Pitts.
I'll be very brief. I'm the CEO of Concerned Women for America. My full statement will be on our website. website, cwfa.org. We have over 500,000 members throughout the country, women who stand with Mike Pence and with these women members today. We will be participating in the calling in today, asking Congress to immediately cease and desist in funding Planned Parenthood. And we are unabashedly pro-life, and we continue in that vein. But I would also say we have taken the lead against the issue of sex trafficking. And even if you're not pro-life, you need to pause for a moment and recognize what these videos reveal. It reveals that Planned Parenthood is the unindicted co-conspirator with sex trafficking. Sex traffickers are rampant in this country. We have over 100,000 people, children, women, children mainly, and little boys that are trafficked into this country every year. And Planned Parenthood is participating and covering up. So we've also called on Eric Holder to launch an investigation and perhaps even file RICO charges against them. In 1993, Congress allowed RICO to be triggered by sex trafficking charges, and so we are urging DOJ to take this very seriously and to look at criminal investigations into these clinics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hawkins. I'm the Executive Director of Students for Life of America. We work with over 570 college and high school organizations throughout the nation. Today I'm just here to repeat what we've been hearing, that Planned Parenthood needs to be federally defunded, and it needs to be done now. Planned Parenthood targets the women we serve every single day on the college and high school campuses. Just a couple of years ago, in 2002, an organization called Life Dynamics did an undercover investigation. They had an actor posing as a 13-year-old girl calling into over 800 abortion facilities. 91% were complicit in covering up the sexual abuse. In 2007, 107 criminal charges were brought against Planned Parenthood in mid-Missouri and Kansas, 23 of them felonies, for doing illegal late-term abortions and then falsifying their medical records to cover up their crimes. We've seen with Live Action and other pro-life students across America, we've seen them go into the clinics and prove that Planned Parenthood is covering up statutory rape across the nation. They promote the barbaric practice of infanticide, and they will accept racially motivated donations. And today, we saw Planned Parenthood is now aiding and abetting sex traffickers. When will it stop? I know abortion is not a popular issue, especially as a politician. It's not something we want to talk about, but we have to. We have to ask the question, what is going inside of Planned Parenthood? What is going on? And why do we continue to use our federal taxpayer money to cover up their crimes? The time is now to stop. Thanks.
Thank you. PlannedParenthood.com. Congressman Pitts, the head of the Health Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce, and then Congressman Smith, the chair of the House Pro-Life Caucus. Yes.
Thank you, Marjorie. This week, the Energy and Commerce Committee is acting to stop the government funding of abortions. But I am very pleased to stand here with the Pro-Life Women's Caucus, what I call the eloquent and elegant spokespeople for the pro-life cause, to expose the Planned Parenthood deception and the exploitation of women and children in these clinics. And what we have seen this past couple of weeks reminds us of the horrors that are associated with the abortion industry. While the videos released by Live Action show the despicable actions of Planned Parenthood, I want to take a moment to bring to your attention the actions of an abortion doctor from eastern Pennsylvania. Kermit Gosnell, MD, operated a women's health clinic in West Philadelphia until recently. It was here that he spent 4 decades offering his, quote, services, end quote, to the community. Upon further investigation by a court-ordered grand jury, these services involved murder of women and babies alike. According to the grand jury, he, quote, regularly and illegally delivered live, viable babies in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, and then murdered these newborns by severing their spinal cords with scissors, end quote. If that is not disgusting enough, during one of these acts of murder, Gosnell joked that the baby was so big that he could, quote, walk me to the bus stop. While it is clear that this man is a criminal, his clinic was still able to operate for years without being inspected or audited. In this country, 95% of the abortions